The Tony Tukumbo Fernandez Show is all about promoting the true life and success stories of African and Caribbean achievers around the world. If there's a product or initiative you wish to share, feel free to give us a call. The number is 0788 280 9005.
Fine.
A very warm welcome to all our listeners around the world. You're welcome to the Tony Tukumbo Fernandez Show, promoting the true life and success stories of African and Caribbean achievers around the world. So if there's a product or initiative you wish to share, feel free to give us a call. The number is 0788 280 9005. That number once again is 0788 280 9005. Or take time to visit our website, www.tonyfernandez.co.uk. We continue to promote the true life and success stories of African and Caribbean achievers around the world. And today we have an amazing guest here in talking with us, all the way live in New York. A very amazing woman, experienced entrepreneur. She's also a heritage architect and also a doctor of science, and has her fingers in so many pies, as well as a cultural economist. So it's so lovely to see Dr. Tokie Brown after such a very long time. It's been ages. How are you feeling today?
I'm fine. I'm doing okay, I guess.
Great, great. Nice to see you again. I think the last time we met was at my Black History Month celebrations at the House of Parliament. But years ago, that's a shame. And so many things have happened since then in your life, I know that. But for the benefit of all our listeners around the world, can you just tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and the things you're most passionate about in life?
Okay, so I wear several hats, so I actually don't know where to start from. Okay, currently I'm restoring a prefab wooden architecture building in Calabar. That's the Hope Waddell Training Institution, which is in Calabar town, as you might know it, where Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe attended for his post-secondary education. So we're currently restoring that building at the moment. We're almost done. So it's been a couple of months doing that. I also work on nominations as well for the UNESCO World Heritage Site. And I'm thinking that maybe we should have Calabar as, put on the tentative list as a World Heritage Site, because it is a historic urban landscape. What else again? I also teach. So I teach for, I do the CPD programs for RIBA on legislation and character, the preservation of character of building fabrics and stuff like that. So what else? And I'm a business person, so I have my wines that I sell in Africa. So my 24 karat gold champagnes are currently in West Africa, South Africa, I think, and a few other places at the moment. Yeah. And that's what I can remember at the top of my head.
and there's so many other things, because sometimes I wonder, does she ever sleep? And the theme of today's interview is why Calabar should be nominated as one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But before we go to that, because I'm quite intrigued by the energy you have and the passion and the zeal for life, what was life growing up like as a child? And what were the greatest lessons you learned in the process?
I think one of the best things that my parents did for us, because we're all born in Germany, and I think one of the greatest things they did was to bring us to Nigeria for a couple of years. And I thought that was fundamental because it shaped my connection to Nigeria and to Africa as a whole. I think without that connection, we'll probably be lost. But yeah, so that has kept me grounded. I'm truly grateful for that. I wish they added languages to it, because then I would be proud to say I could speak Yoruba or Benin, because my parents are from either of those areas. And so I have a great connection to anything African. So I technically would fight for anything that is African heritage, or look for funding to sort of help, within that whole sector of heritage when it comes to Africa.
Now, we're coming to that because you're very, very passionate about the preservation of cultural heritage. How important is this today, especially in the Nigerian context? And do you think we take it seriously as a people?
I think we have taken on too much of the Western culture. I think we have some sort of pride when it comes to Western culture, which is really sad, because everywhere you go, and because I travel a lot, and when you go to places, you see the very essence of that country within their architecture, within their social fabric, their social structure. And I find that when I go to Africa or many parts of Nigeria, that is sort of lost, because our architecture is so Western. We have sick buildings. We no longer use earth for our buildings. We no longer use natural elements for our buildings. And we don't have the symbolism anymore with our architecture, which is very sad, because I would like to go to parts of Africa and know that this is African, right? And so this is why I do what I do, because I feel that the disconnect that we feel within Africa itself may be true because of the interruptions we're faced from colonial interruptions, or colonial disruptions, call it whatever it is. But I think that has affected us greatly. And I think this is why you see this whole hybrid of culture within Africa, which is so sad, because we've ended up with sick buildings instead. I don't understand why we need air conditioning, because if we had used earth, we wouldn't be looking for air conditioning. Because remember growing up and having to drink water from the calabash, the water is always cool. And so that's what earth does, with our buildings, because we're in such a tropical region. We do need to be using earth materials for our buildings, but we don't. Instead, we're happy to have the latest air conditioning systems, which I find very bizarre. But, and we're not utilizing solar as much, right? So I think we need to be using more of our elements within our buildings. I think it's crucial that we do that.
Beautiful. Now the theme, Calabar being a UNESCO World Historical Site. You were talking a few weeks ago about your first experience in Calabar. What was that experience like for you? And what did you learn from it?
So when I went to Calabar, I was very struck by a lot of the ancient buildings that are still there. So the ICOMOS-IFLA building, Merging building, the Hope Water buildings. In fact, Hope Water has an amount of buildings that I just feel needs to be frozen in time. But this type of, and I'm surprised that it's not even on the tentative list, because this sort of historic urban landscapes are supposed to be placed on the tentative list because it shows that we already know what the outstanding universal values are, and then from there we can now submit a dossier and make it an UNESCO World Heritage Site, because there's no place in Nigeria, well, apart from Suko and Oshogbo that are on the World Heritage list, there is no historic urban landscape in Nigeria that is on that tentative list, which I think is sad that we're not documenting all of these buildings. And it struck me that because, okay, so yes, I do know that the current governor has issues, but it struck me that the past governors made heritage, a big deal in Calabar, and to have lost that because of a particular person is so sad, because with that they're losing a lot of the buildings, because I hear they're breaking them down and they are building. It's so sad that you see this sort of things like the Eco Eyobasi house now is dilapidated at the moment. And I'm trying to see if we can get money to sort of document it before we lose it completely, or find somebody that will fund it so that we can restore it, right? And so it saddens me that, okay, yes, why Calabar, why not somewhere else? But I see a lot more of these elements in Calabar than I have seen elsewhere. Lagos is completely out of it because they have just been killing all their buildings, like the Ilojo Bar, that is gone. I just feel there's something fundamentally wrong with governance when it comes to heritage in Nigeria.
Now, based on your observations in Calabar, why else do you feel it should be named as a UNESCO World Heritage Site?
Because it does have the historic urban landscape elements, which I think needs to be protected. It has a strong history. Just reading about the Henshaw Town, Duke Town, I think all of that needs to be documented. All of that needs to be preserved. All of that needs to be taught in school. And all of that needs to be put on the World Heritage list.
Now, you've also traveled to so many countries around the world. And I presume you've also been to many countries in Africa. When you go to cities and countries in Africa, what cities or locations do strike you also that should be UNESCO World Heritage Sites as well?
There's quite a number that have lost a lot of their elements. A lot of them still are carrying on a lot of colonial buildings. Okay, so now let me think. I know there are places in Cape Verde, for instance, that should also have their heritage preserved. Places like Malawi, South Africa has lost a lot of its elements as well. So I've been to parts of South Africa and it's very westernized. So a lot of colonial buildings are there. Marrakesh has been preserved. So you see a lot of Morocco's sites on the World Heritage list. You see a lot of parks. So in Tanzania, it's parks that, cultural landscapes that are on the World Heritage site. So there's some elements, but they still all have colonial connotations attached to them. And so I want to see more of the pure African heritage, which is like why I enjoy visiting Suko or enjoy visiting Oshogbo, because they have that traditional elements attached to them. And I'm happy that they have been preserved. I wish they will do the same for the Benin moat as well before we lose it completely. And so Nigeria actually is the one with more of this, cultural elements, which is why it's so depressing that we can't have more of this on, UNESCO, or even have our own designations, for pure historical, pure heritage, pure African heritage sites.
Now, for the benefit of all our listeners listening in today, what initiatives are you working on right now, and also in 2023, which you feel the world should know about?
So at the moment, I'm actually in Calabar. We're going to have an African Institute, and so the building is going to be purely of rammed earth. And so I think we begin work on that next year. And so it's going to be like a think tank for Africans to actually do a lot of heritage critical thinking. So be involved in anything that is heritage, anything to do with pure Africana studies. So really going down and dirty into the historical element, symbolism of Africana studies is what will be happening at this institute.
All we have right now is the present moment. How important is it as Africans for us to be the change we want to see in society?
It starts with us. It starts with each and every one of us. I think we need to go past the whole idea of identifying ourselves because of borders. I think now it's time to look at ourselves as part of a community, as part of the African community, and start to do things for ourselves. I think at this stage now that I'm at, I'm tired of aid. I'm tired of the white savior syndrome that we currently suffer from. I'm tired of us always saying we can't do anything ourselves, that somebody has to come save us. I think it's time we do the work ourselves. And I do believe that sitting down in the diaspora is not the way to do it, because we're always going to be complaining. There is going to be somebody there that is going to do a shitty job. So we need to be doing this work ourselves. And so I spend less time now in this part of the world and spend more of my time now in Nigeria, because look, I'm shouting heritage. If I'm not there practically doing this, we're going to lose it. So there's no point sitting down in this part of the world, enjoying all the benefits of what other people have been working hard to sustain, as opposed to going home and doing what needs to be done. So I think many of us need to do that. I know a lot of people say, oh, security. Please, America is also unsafe. You could walk down the streets and get shot. So for heaven's sake, I think we need to walk past this whole security issue thing and just start going home. Or else we wouldn't have a home to go home to.
And you've been a superwoman in the process. Taking that into consideration, what message do you have for all our Africans around the world today, especially those in the diaspora?
Go home. Basically, go home. Find something to do. There is a lot to do. A lot to do. You can pick up some passion, some idea, and just run with it. Run with that. I don't think I'm sure if you tell anybody about heritage, you'll be like, okay, what do you do with that? But I have found what to do with heritage. I just picked up something that I'm passionate about, and I'm working with that. And I'm quite sure they can do that with any sector they so please.
Wonderful message. On a very final note, if people want to get in contact with you, what social media handles are out there if they want to talk to you or collaborate in some form?
Okay, so I'm not so great with social media. I only remember it sometimes when people say, oh, go put something on social media. But you can find me on Instagram, Dr. Tokie on Instagram, once in a while, Facebook. So Tokie Loughton Brown, even my Twitter, I think I'm way behind on that. But yes, but if you do send me a message on Instagram, I'll be happy to respond.
Lovely to see you. I'm so proud of you. Keep shining, and we'll catch up soon.
Well done. Well done. Thank you. Thank you for having me.